Welcome to the Jamodi Podcast. We are all surrounded by amazing coaches and leaders. So let's get an inside look at not just what they do, but how they do what they do. After all, becoming the best versions of ourselves is Jamodi, just a matter of doing it. Coaches, the Jamodi Podcast is powered by Scoreboard Media. Scoreboard Media works with high schools across the country to run professional sponsorship programs on their LED scoreboards. Whether you already have LED and you just want to supercharge the revenue, or you want to use sponsorship revenue to buy new LED video scoreboards, Scoreboard Media can help. They work with sponsors and advertisers locally, regionally, and nationally who want to connect with your school's community. Email info@scoreboardmedia.com to start the conversation and see what's possible.
You know, in all of my years of coaching, one thing that's really becomes more clear to me year after year. It doesn't matter if it's in your personal life or maybe I don't know if you're the same, but I think instinctively it's probably most of us. The hardest thing there is to do, like as a human, is the art of communication. Like, you know, it doesn't matter, you know, with your wife, with your children, with your parents, with your siblings, you know, certainly with, you know, when there's an age gap and you're trying to communicate with the teenagers that are not related to you, you know, how you say what you say. I mean, how many times do you feel like you really communicated something perfectly only to find out later that boy thought I was saying something completely different? And it used to just blow my mind. I would think, oh my gosh, I couldn't have said it any better. I couldn't have been more clear, but I could have, and I should have. And then you learn from it and then you move forward. But communication is really one of, if not the most challenging thing, one of the most challenging things that every year I get a little older, and you never master it, or at least I haven't yet, and I'm getting on up there. But it is really a challenge to communicate appropriately in the moment. Again, especially when you're dealing with a bunch of teenagers, because none of them are at the same place. None.
I would encourage every coach, unless they've already done it, but do it again, to observe a PGC point guard college session. So be an observing coach and go there and listen. I really got lucky, Coach. That's all I can say. Is I went to the very first Snaps celebration, which was when Mono Watsa took over of PGC. He wanted to bring in people that had been a part of it in different ways and just have kind of like a celebration for where it's going and everything. So they invited me randomly because I didn't even know PGC was still around. It was when emails were starting to get really big with people selling or sending stuff out, kind of selling, but sending stuff out. And I got one, and I was at McKinney High School. And I was like, I can't believe these guys, this is still going. And so then I got to Faith, and they invited me out to Snaps, got to meet some of the new guys, and they're like, hey, we're trying to get new directors. Why don't you come on board? And I thought, yeah, I'll do that for sure. I walked into there like coaching a certain way, speaking a certain way to players. But after just that one summer, I was different. And 5 summers of that then really changed. Those guys, and it was really all from Dick DiVenzio, the founder of PGC. He was a genius, but the way that they communicate, the sticky language, the way that Mono taught me, like, we have to help players make the choice themselves and not just force them to do things intrinsic over extrinsic, right? But the way that you communicate, Coach, I think you're right on the money. Here's a question for you. What are the most likely times throughout a game, a season, a practice, where our communication, if we're not careful, really gets us in trouble with our players? Not in trouble like you're going to get fired, but we lose them, or we hurt them, or we break culture. Where do you think?
Well, I think it could literally at any time, but I would say probably for me, it would probably be in season, in game, or even in practice or film session. Just because the intensity level of everything is ramped up, everything is you're operating on short sleep. You know, you're sleep deprived over a long period of time, and there's just so much happening in such a short period of time, and you're trying to break down film, have a quality practice plan, run a quality practice, prepare the scouting report, make sure that the scouting report is understood and in line with video. And then you've got the energy of the games and the intensity and the pressure uh, and like I can remember we were in a playoff game about 3 years ago, and we had a young man who I mean, it was a packed house. It could have been, I think it was third round of the playoffs. I can't remember, second, third round, but I mean, it was loud. It was super exciting, tight game, and I'm yelling at him to come over, and he's not coming over, and I keep yelling at him, and finally he turns around and he screams at me, "Quit yelling at me!" And I'm thinking, I wasn't yelling at you. I was just trying to get your attention so that I could get you over here so that I wouldn't have to yell at you. And yet I was yelling at him. And, I mean, and in the moment I was like, unbelievable. But that's what we're dealing with. So for me, I would answer your question probably at that time. I feel like I'm in the most danger of, getting sideways, miscommunicating, having things interpreted really differently than I have them in my head.
Yeah.
And we're all human. I mean, I have bad days too, and I've got to, really be on guard. I can certainly, I hate myself when I get sarcastic with kids, and I've fallen into that trap many times, and I'll think, oh my gosh, come on, you got to be better than that.
Yeah, because you never know how deep that really pierces. Because
That's
kids
right.
are going to try to laugh it off or try to act like it doesn't. But I'm luckily I'm not good with sarcasm, so I don't use it. But part of me is always worried about. I think we have a good relationship. I think the kid can take it, but how much really pierces? Because I can think back to maybe some comments that were made in jest that made me really think deeper about that
Right.
than that person intended.
Right.
Here,
So,
here
but
are
we're
four.
but we're
Go
all
ahead.
we're all human, I mean, we're all flawed, and we make mistakes too. I think it's important to own those mistakes, especially if
Yeah.
it's about communication and a breakdown of it. I don't think there's some of these coaches who we're not going to go out of our way to over apologize for things that we don't really need to apologize for just to make a young man, maybe feel better. Sometimes it's okay for them to not feel better. They've made a mistake and they need to learn from it. But if we've made a mistake again, you've got to be real. Like the kids know, like they're why if we're telling them to watch a film and the thing I got after them about isn't showing up on film, they were right and I was wrong. And there's nothing. We don't have any hesitation about owning that, and I think that goes towards developing trust. And you're not always going to communicate everything perfectly, especially in a heated moment,
Yeah.
either from the outside or from the inside. But I do think that if the trust has been developed over the span of time, then you can repair it more quickly.
I have four ways or four times that I think I need to be careful. And I think really what you and I are getting at is maybe a little exercise that coaches need to go through. So think back to the times that you've said or done something that you regret it, you wish you could change it, you didn't like your tone, you lost control of the information. And I think we need to be prepared for those times. So like the idea of having emotion, sure, but not being emotional. We want our players that way. Like play
Right.
with emotion, play with passion, but don't lose it. Don't be emotional. But how often are we the ones that are being emotional? And here are the four places that I've felt like where I lose it and I need to be careful. One is in film. If I don't feel like they're taking it serious, or if I'm watching something and I just feel the blood boiling and I lose control. And so in film, I have to be almost like conscious of keep teaching, teach through this. Obviously, we want the environment to be like that where they're students of the game. Timeouts are a time where if I'm not careful, the heat of the moment, the emotion, the frustration, I won't teach in those times. I won't get the information. They don't need what, like one of the PGC themes is, don't bring past drama into the present. Don't bring what just happened into now. We just gave up blockouts. but we're about to have a huge play going down this way. What do they need now? So stay halftime talks and post game. What I've tried to do in all of those areas is give myself checks and balances. So in film, it's short clips, right? Not 30-minute bouts. And timeouts, I give them 3 things that they need to know, and I don't bring in past anger to it. Do my very, very best. Halftime speeches, we don't go back to the locker room. We stay out on the court. They get in a circle. I talk with my coaches. I let them talk, and then I come in and I ask them, what'd you guys discuss? By the time that I talk to my coaches and they're talking, we're all feeling a lot better. So I get to miss out on that possible moment of bad communication that I'll regret. And then the last one is post-game speeches. Completely have thrown those out except for the last game of the year when we cry and when we hug each other. But go to the center of the court, start my timer right in front of them. I hit the clock. I show them 3 minutes. I hit the clock. Celebrations, guys. Win or loss. What'd you see? That was good. And we talk about what tomorrow is. I love watching you play. But those four times are where I've identified I've said things that I regret. I don't have good enough control in those moments. So I got to set guardrails. And that's helped me a little bit. But you're right on the money. Communication probably will be one of the things that we can do to break our culture.
Well, those are 4 things that are on point, as they say, right? I mean, that's fantastic. I would echo everything that you said there, and certainly I'm probably more guilty than any other coach I know of, having regrets over not being able to teach. I think about timeouts where I've just been so upset, and instead of teaching, we've had teams. I can remember, at a previous coaching stop, where we'd get out of the huddle and I'd think, oh my gosh, we don't have any idea what we're about to run. And I'm yelling at them to try to run something as they're going out there on the floor because I had to vent.
Yeah.
How stupid, right? I mean, that's just stupid. But I was so caught up in the moment and so upset. And I will tell you, one of the things that traditionally for me, I don't know about you, but like it just kills me when I feel like two things. When I feel like as hard as we've worked, and I say we, I mean our kids and our coaching staff, but mostly our young men, for us to go out and give less than our best.
Yeah.
That really, that just bothers me. Winning and losing is hard and great. But to give less than our best after everything that we've invested, that really is hard for me. If we go out there and we play as hard as we can and we just can't make a shot, it's basketball. Sometimes that's going to happen. But to not put forth the effort that we practice with every day, that sets me off. And if I feel like we're not getting a fair shake, that I really have a problem with, and that does not happen nearly as much as I felt like it did when I was younger. And I do feel like that is nowhere near as prevalent as it used to be. But when I feel like that's part of my job also is I got to stick up for our guys. If we're not getting a fair shake out there, somebody needs to hear my voice. And it may be the young guys, wearing our jerseys. They need to know that I'm not just going to sit there and take, because I can't take it when I feel like our guys are not getting a fair shake. And I say that hasn't really happened in quite some time. I just feel like that happens less now than maybe it used to. When there was a time when we coached and, every town you went to had literally their own officials that only called games there in their town.
Coach brought them to the game with them. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that really did happen. Those I'm old enough to remember those days. But we don't see much of that anymore. But yes, I think those are great points and something great for any young coach out there to make note of. I certainly will make note of it myself.
That's a hard balance, though. The fighting for your kids and when you feel like they're doing it right, like on a charge or a block out, or they go off of 2 feet and there's contact and you feel like it's a foul and you see your guy fall or something, like it's hard not to get so protective in those moments. What's the line? So again, going back to accountability, more is caught than taught. We can tell our guys, hey, as players, listen, you don't mess with officials. As if they're not there. You're not going to react to calls. You're gonna get past it. But with us wanting to fight for them, how much are we maybe showing the opposite? Like, is it contradicting what we're telling our players too far? What's that balance there? Because I've definitely had games where my wife, who does our book most of the time, goes, you're a little too much tonight with the officials.
I've heard that. I've had those comments at the house myself.
She'd say, Matt,
you went overboard there. You went overboard. I would say this. You said, like, it's hard to not take it personal, but what I would say is you cannot return it personally. You can't make it personal back to them. It doesn't matter, even if maybe you are getting home cooking. I will say this too. Been an awful lot of nights where I thought maybe we were really getting home cooking, and I went back and watched the film. You know what? It wasn't that bad. There were some close calls that didn't go our way, and we wanted to win so bad that you start imagining things are worse than they are, and I'm guilty, especially when I was a younger coach, of some of those things. But I do think it is a fine line. But I would say that you're still a paid professional, and it's your job to not make it personal with that official, because we're not, like we tell our guys all the time, hey man, we're not going to get NBA officials. That's not going to happen tonight.
Yeah.
And guess it's okay. You know why? Because I'm not an NBA coach and you're not an NBA player, and we're not playing an NBA team. So let's take these guys and go out there and do the best we can. And, and I think I don't know a single coach, and especially myself, who would not say this. The best games I've ever done coaching, managing the game, making adjustments in it, have been games where I was able to block out the officiating altogether.
Yeah.
When the game's over and I don't really remember who the officials were, I think those are almost always the games that I feel like, okay, I really did a good job.
That's a good point. And I try to tell players every year that there's going to be 7 to 9 bad calls a game. Like, I'm telling you this, guys, before we play, expect it. So it's like when kids are little and you say that stove is hot, don't touch it. Like, we're telling them ahead of time so they don't touch it. There's 7 to 9 bad calls. Expect it. So when those happen, we shouldn't get upset, but yet I still find myself getting upset. I love the idea of not making it personal with them, and I think you're right on the money. I don't know who said it, but bad coaches deal with referees. Good coaches coach their players. And I think at the end of the day, we all want to be good coaches. And I think as this has helped me, these kind of talks, try to eliminate more and more of the bad coach in me that we still have, and or just habits or emotions, and try to get a better handle on them. But I think that's a really good reminder that you had.
Thank you for checking out today's episode. Please take a moment to subscribe to this podcast, share it with your fellow coaches, and find us on social media for what's coming up next on the Jamodi Podcast. It's just a matter of doing it.